Hello, welcome back to the developer sessions here at EGX 2016. I feel like a bit of a fraud introducing this next panel because I'm nearly 30 years old and I don't know how to drive a car. But coming to the stage now to talk about the development of Forza Horizon 3, please welcome Ralph Fulton.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, EGX. How are you today? Woo! Thank you so much for coming. It's a rare privilege to be able to come to an event like this and speak to real gamers, to real players. I feel like I've been doing an awful lot of talking about Forza Horizon 3 over the last couple of months. I guess that's to be expected. We announced the game in June at E3, which is a relatively short period of time between announcing it and releasing it. So we do a lot of talking in between. I feel like I've been saying the same things again and again. If it feels the same way to you, then I can only apologize for that. But we're at a point in development now which is super, super exciting for us and kind of changes the nature of this presentation, certainly, because for the first time, the game is out there, right? The demo came out last week. There's reviews have been coming out, which is fantastic. And last night at midnight, all over the world, the game went live for Ultimate Edition early access, so people are playing the game. Has anyone here played the Forza Horizon 3 demo? A show of hands, what a polite audience you are. Feel free to cheer for the benefit of the people in the live stream. Has anyone played the game? Has anyone Ultimate Edition? What are you doing here? You could be playing the game. Why you would choose to listen to me talk about the game rather than play it is beyond me, but thank you for coming. I forgot to say, my name is Ralph, by the way. I'm the creative director at Playground Games. Playground Games are the developers of the Forza Horizon series. We're based just down the road, 20 minutes on the train. We're in Leamington Spa. So this was super easy for me to get. Hats off to Eurogamer for getting out of London and moving closer to my house. Yeah, we're based in Leamington Spa. We're a British developer. And what I wanted to do today, because there's so much out there now about the game, and so many of you have played it, was try and give you something more interesting, something that maybe you haven't heard before. So I'm doing a talk I've never done before, and that's my way of staying up front. If it doesn't go well, that's why. But to try and give you a little bit of insight of what happens behind the scenes in making a game like Forza Horizon 3. And I guess the story starts for us, for Playground, 6.5 years ago. We're only 6.5 years old as a company. This is our third game. And I wanted to show you some Polaroids. They weren't actually Polaroids, it was an iPhone. Of when we first moved into our studio in Leamington Spa. Everyone seemed much younger then. That was 6.5 years ago, and in that year, later that year in 2010, we pitched a game to the guys at Turn 10 Studios at Xbox in the US. And that game, that pitch, was called Forza Horizon. And that's kind of unusual because it's rare for that first pitch, that very first document, to have the name of a game, which is now in its third iteration. And I actually looked at that pitch doc recently in kind of preparing for this talk and was amazed at how true the vision of these games was right back at the start. It was about freedom. It was about the thrill of the open road. There were some features in there which made it into the game and have been in every game since. And that game, it did really well as our first game, our debut. I happened to play it, as maybe some of you did recently, on backwards compatibility on Xbox One. I hope you took advantage of that Games with Gold opportunity. And I played it again for the first time in a couple of years, just a couple of weeks ago, and was amazed at how well it stands up. It's still a great-looking game. It's still a really fun game. And we were immensely proud of that title when it came out, as we were of Forza Horizon 2, which followed immediately after it, and I think improved in many, many ways as we moved on to Xbox One. But I don't really want to talk about either of those games today, although there are many interesting stories, I'm sure, about their making. What I do want to talk to you about is Forza Horizon 3. And I guess that's about the team that are now at Playground. So this is Playground today. More furniture, more carpets. These are the people who made the game. We reached 150 staff on Forza Horizon 3. They are all incredibly smiley, as you will notice. And I have never been more proud of a team, I think, than of the team that have created this game. And what I'm going to try and do today is share some stories with you about the thinking behind the game, about why we made the game we did. And I'm going to kind of talk to you about three main things, I think. I want to talk to you about how we have listened to our fans, to you guys, in the development of this game. It's maybe not always immediately obvious that that process is happening, but I want to point out exactly how important it is to us when we make a game. But equally, I also want to talk about the ways, and there are many of them in this game, how we've innovated within the racing genre and done things which have never been done before. I think that's really a really important part of our job as well. But I want to start by talking about the enormous effort that went into building our world. Now, you will know, I imagine, that the game is set in Australia. I've talked about it at some length. Excuse me. And I've talked about why we chose Australia above virtually any other place in the world. I've talked about the process by which we selected it and the reason, which was its incredible beauty and its incredible environmental diversity. That part of the story is well covered. What I want to do is really start on what happened next. So the day after that first big decision on Forza Horizon 3 to set the game in Australia, what did we do? How did we go from there to arriving at what I believe is the most beautiful and the most well-designed open world that we've created to date? Well, what we immediately did after settling on Australia as our location is we start to create mood boards. Now, this research is just internet research, it's Google Images, and we start to look all over this vast country of Australia at all the different types of environment, types of scenery that it can offer. And as you can see just from those few slides, it is an incredibly diverse world. And we do that to get everyone excited about the game, everyone within the studio and everyone externally. But we also do it as the first step of planning, because what we have to do, what we've done with each of the locations in Forza Horizon to date, is go there. And going to Australia presents more logistical issues than any other location we've done. It is on the other side of the world, and when you get there, it's absolutely vast. So the research trips on Forza Horizon 3 were more difficult and more onerous than ever before. People often ask me in interviews with a kind of a wink and a smile, did you go on the research trips? Implying that they are some kind of jolly, and I always am at pains to tell them that is not the case at all. There is no worse trip to go on than an environment research trip, because it starts with a lot of driving. So thousands of miles of driving over the course of our summer in 2015 all over Australia, as you can see, all the while filming this dash cam footage, HD, which we then bring back to the studio and which then runs on screens all around our studio so that even the guys that don't go get to feel like they've been there. I feel like I've seen this road a million times because I have in the studio, and that's kind of the point. But in all honesty, the driving is the easy bit, even over the sort of scale of environment that you see in Australia, because when you stop, the guys on the trip have to do an incredible amount of photography. They take hundreds of thousands of photos all over Australia on this trip, and it's not just for reference, it's not just beauty shots like the ones you're seeing here. It actually has a very functional part in the development of the game, because we use a technique called photogrammetry, which basically allows us to turn high-def photos into game-ready 3D assets. So the photography exercise is really difficult. I'm going to use as an example this area here. This is Ormiston Gorge, which is in the Northern Territory of Australia, which is pretty much top middle. It's about as far away from a coast as you can get in Australia. And it presented one of the most difficult challenges, both in getting there and researching it, but also building it, because rocks are notoriously difficult to get right. So we get lots of video, like the footage you're seeing here. But then the guys have to do a very extensive and laborious photography exercise to make sure that all these rocks are captured in exactly the right way. So we use light probes. That's what that silver ball is there. Light probes to make sure that we've got the correct lighting data when we get these imagery back to the studio. And we use color checkers as well to make sure that we color grade our entire game properly and we understand exactly what colors were showing up in what way during the shoot. And then with all that imagery, we start to collate that, we start to build models, and our concept artists take over and build and create concept target images, which our entire team then starts to build. And in game development, there's a term called a vertical slice, which you may have heard, and if you haven't, it's basically the first time a team comes together and builds a complete part of the game that they can show off, and they can say to people, hey, this is what you're going to get. This is the quality that we're going to try and build the game to. And we did our environment vertical slice in Ormiston Gorge. So you can see here in this next slide, that's the concept image that we created. And then we cross-fade into the environment vertical slice that we created September 2015. And as you can see, it's looking pretty finished here. There was still some polish that happened to it in the final game, but you can see it's looking like a game. And it's proving out not just that we can build rocks and that we can build the environment, but also there are trees here, and there's water here, which is new in Horizon, which we've never done before. And there's wildlife. As well, and the wildlife is probably worthy of note because wildlife has been something that we've been trying to do in Horizon since the very first game. Those of you with a great memory might remember that the very first shot in the first Forza Horizon game was of a deer startled by the sound of a supercar, and then it gambled off. And that would be the last animal you ever saw in a Forza Horizon game through 1 and 2, and we were determined to remedy that in 3, not just because it brings the world to life and makes it feel real, but also because Australia has such incredible exotic animals. If you see a kangaroo, then you know you're in Australia, and we felt we absolutely had to try and get wildlife into the game. And you can see there's some dingoes in a rock, and you saw some parrots, and that technology was kind of new for us, and thus when you build new technology, things can go wrong. So yes, we had a dingo. That wasn't as bad as it got. And actually, that wasn't as bad as it got either. That's as bad as it got with dingoes, but you do not want to see what happens when the mechanic character, Warren, in our game, is actually swapped with a kangaroo via a bug. And honestly, I don't know why we didn't keep him in like that. But if you've played the demo, as so many of you who raised your hands have done, you will have seen kangaroos and crocodiles and dingoes and parrots, and they really bring the world to life, and they really sell the fact that you're in Australia, which was very much our intention. I want to pay tribute to our environment team back at Playground. This has been, from start to finish, the most challenging environment we've ever built. It is by far the biggest environment we've built, and despite those two things, it is, to my mind, and I've been playing the game an enormous amount the last couple of weeks, the best environment, the most beautiful, the most intricately designed, with the best visual storytelling that we have ever created, and I cannot wait to see what that team do next. They are really growing into their role, so my hat is off to them. And that's our environment. I hope that was kind of insightful. Let me move on and talk a little bit about fan requests. So let's rewind right back to the end of Horizon 2 and the start of Horizon 3. And we had a fairly good idea of what we wanted to do in general terms, and we knew we were going to Australia. But what we undertook right at that point was an enormous exercise to try and analyze and evaluate all the feedback that we got on the game. Now, obviously, we always get reviews, and that's a bunch of really valid feedback that we can take on board. But you get far more, and I think far deeper feedback from the people who actually go out and buy the game, who actually play it. And there are so many ways, as we all know these days, for people to feed back what they think, good and bad. And we undertook to try and analyze that and understand it and group it together into themes, I guess you would say, that we could then act on. And I hope, if you're one of the people who have played Forza Horizon 2 and perhaps gave us feedback in playing Forza Horizon 3, you will see some of the feedback in the comments that you've given life within Horizon 3. I'm going to point to a couple. Wide body kits has long been something, not just in Horizon, but in the Forza franchise, that our fans have been crying out for. And I would say, we've talked a lot about wide body kits, and wide body kits always gets the press, it always gets the attention. But the wider theme of feedback was give us more options in customization, and that's exactly what we've done in Forza Horizon 3 as a direct result of that feedback. So as well as the big ticket items, the Rocket Bunny wide body kits and the Liberty Walks, we have an absolute wealth of new customization options. There are even more body kits for an incredibly wide selection of cars. There's some really fun visual customization that you can add, like blowers and surfboards and roof racks. And our wheel list has had a big overhaul. We've added more than 30 new wheels, and if you're into your wheels and you know names like ADV1 and Rotiform and 1552, you'll be delighted. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then wheels. And excitingly, so ADV1 were so excited to be in the game that they offered and indeed did design a custom Forza wheel specifically for this game, and you'll be able to see that Forza ADV1 wheel in the wheel list if you play the game. So that's wide body kits and that's customization. The next big thing, and this has been the #1 community request, not just in Horizon again, but in Forza all up for some years now, is the auction house. And as you will, I hope, know by now, we have brought the auction house back. This is a screenshot I took last night of it working within the game, and I'm delighted that we've been able to bring that back. And even with the relatively few people that have been playing before the game went live, the auction house has become quite lively. It's a good place to go. People are getting a lot of fun out of that bidding process of sniping other players, and I also hope it's going to turn into a great place for the people who create amazing things within our game to get value for that work. I'm talking about painters and tuners specifically. So that's back, and #2 in the community request list was storefront, and we've brought that back as well. And again, this is a screenshot I took this morning, and I would highly recommend checking out Ayo Jube's work as he brings all his stuff into Forza Horizon 3. But it's a great way for creators like him to showcase just how amazing the work they do in the livery editor and indeed in the tuning mechanics is. So I'm delighted that we were able to bring those back, and again, I think the message here is it might not always appear like it, but developers do listen. We do hear the feedback that comes back, and even if you can't see exactly what's happening, we're always working behind the scenes to try and give you, the community, the things you want. And I would tease that there are going to be more things coming in Forza Horizon 3. If you've heard about Forzathon, you might know that the Nissan Silvia S14, one of the most requested cars, is going to be available for one day only on Friday the 14th of October via Forzathon. That is a car that our community have been crying out for, and now we'll have the opportunity to own in the game, and there is more stuff like that to come. So that's how we respond to feedback, and I guess I've heard a school of thought that says, developers, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just listen to what we want? And as I've said, and I think as we've demonstrated in Horizon 3, that's a really valid thing to do. But I also think, and this is the counterpoint, that it's the developer's job to think of the things you don't know you want yet. To innovate, to bring new things into the game. And that's something that we take very seriously, to ensure that things don't stagnate, that they don't slow down, that we're always trying to think of new things to entertain you and to delight you. And that's what we've done in Forza Horizon 3. And I want to talk about some of the innovation that's present in this game. I'm talking about things that have never been in Horizon before. I'm talking about some things that have never been in Forza before. But even bigger than that, I'm talking about things that haven't been in games before. And we take enormous pride at being the tip of the spear on some of the things I'll talk to you about right now. You will, if you've heard anything I've said over the last 3 months, you'll almost definitely have heard me talk about skies. So I'm going to try and not give you the same spiel I've been giving since June. But what I have dug out is some really interesting videos going right back to the genesis of this feature. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, we have an absolutely revolutionary system in Forza Horizon 3 to display our skies. And it is born out of incredible technology, but even further back, it is born out of really ridiculously hard work by a certain section of our team who went to Australia with a custom-built camera that we created and filmed the skies for a summer. Now, what I want to show you now is the first prototype video of this that we put together. Now, it was put together to demonstrate just how powerful this system could be, not in terms of just making beautiful skies, but also in terms of creating an entirely new lighting model for the game. And the sky that we'll see, well, the first sky that we'll see actually is the Forza Horizon 2 sky. So this is the sky system that we use in Forza Horizon 2. And honestly, there's nothing terrible about this. This is a very standard way of displaying dynamic skies in an open world game. Layers of cutout clouds rotating on a skybox, being independently lit with light masks. And this works. A ton of games do this, and it's a great system. But what we then did, and I think the contrast is really marked, is show exactly what our new sky system can do. Now, this sky that's playing out in time-lapse overhead is actually a British sky. I'm sure you'd noticed that. That was recorded in Norfolk. Our guys first went to Norfolk to try and test out this technology, but immediately you can see how much more variation and detail and beauty there is. And I would point not just to the sky, but what it's doing to the car and to the ground as it casts realistic cloud shadows as well. So having seen that, we then signed off on sending these guys out to Australia. That's Kelvin and Jamie who went out to Australia, mercifully at the start of their summer, although the shoot then continued all the way through their summer. And we captured terabytes upon terabytes of sky data. It's about 1.5 terabytes of data just to capture a single sky. And then when we brought it back, this is what happens in real time in-game. And as you can see, it is unlike any other dynamic sky you've seen in a game. It links in completely to our weather systems, and it also, as I say, creates a completely different lighting system. And I think if you read people saying that Forza Horizon 3 looks so markedly better than 2, there are many reasons for it, but that is the principal one. And that's never been done in a game before. That's something that we're incredibly proud to have pioneered at Playground. The next innovation is something that we haven't been able to do in Forza before, which is create gameplay. And this came from two places. It came from, I guess, one, a design desire to put you guys in charge, to empower our players to choose what kind of game they play rather than relying on us developers to tell you what game to play. But the other place it came from is that community research exercise I talked about, where we heard many, many people saying, I wish I didn't have to do this, or I wish I could do more of that. And the this and that changed with each individual response, but the broad theme was, I want more control over the game I play. That's exactly what Horizon Blueprint does in two ways. It allows you to create your own events. So you can change everything about that event, the cars that enter it, the time of day, the weather conditions. You can be really creative with the relatively simple tools that we've given you there. And also you can create your own bucket list challenges now, and send them to your friends and kick off a little bit of a challenge there. And again, already I'm really delighted to see how first journalists and now actual players are really taking on this feature and creating really fun, often laugh out loud funny events, which all of us can play, and I've been enjoying playing them over the last couple of weeks. Campaign co-op. Now I talked about the first pitch for Forza Horizon back in 2010, and it had campaign co-op in it. And indeed, the design for Horizon 2 had campaign co-op in it. You will know if you're an aficionado that neither game ended up shipping with that feature, but it's something right from the start that we felt was right for Horizon. Horizon's about having fun with your friends. You can totally do that with campaign co-op in Forza Horizon 3. It is a really fun way to play through the game. It's a really smart system. It adapts to you and your friends and how you want to play. And I hope a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun using that in the game, particularly because this is a cross-play game. And I talked about things that haven't been done before. We're right at the forefront of the Xbox Play Anywhere program. This is obviously an Xbox One and a Windows 10 game, and we are allowing people to play together, and you can do that in co-op or you can do that in multiplayer. It's entirely up to you. Even the auction house and the sharing mechanisms within the game work across platforms, and I can't wait to see how that expands the community of Forza over the next couple of months and years. And we are absolutely the first game to ship with high dynamic range. visuals. If you have an Xbox One S and you have an HDR-compatible television, you could today see exactly what that means, and it feels really great to be the first game out the door showcasing this amazing new visual technology. So another new thing, Groove Music Radio is also entirely new. It's the first time you've been able to use a cloud streaming service to bring your own music into the game to listen to as you drive. And if you're not subscribing to that streaming service, and you don't need to, you can just put your own music on OneDrive, put your MP3s on OneDrive and stream them via the cloud into your game and listen to exactly the kind of music that you like to listen to while you drive. And finally, an innovation which came almost literally out of nowhere, but which people have gone nuts for since they saw it in the Horizon 3 demo, is drone mode. And this is a little video, again, just taken the other day, showing exactly what it can do. There's a really cool story about this. This wasn't in any design document at the start of Horizon 3. This was actually developed as a pet project by one of our engineers, a guy called Steve. And he built it, he designed it, and he showed us it. And we thought it was amazing. We put it in the game. But if I'm honest, I don't think I ever thought people would go nuts for it in the way that they have done since the demo has come out. And back in the studio, we've been absolutely loving seeing the videos and the GIFs that people have been creating and putting online using this feature. And I'm certain that that's going to continue and grow as people get their hands on the full game. Again, something that people didn't think they wanted or needed, but now that we've done it, they're loving it, and they're asking us for new things to do with it, which I'm sure we will get to in time. I'm really proud of the innovation in Horizon 3. Like I said, I do think it's our job to be thinking of new things to put in games, to keep them fresh, and to keep the genre and the industry moving forward. And like I say, I can't wait to hear your feedback on these in exactly the same way as we heard that feedback after Horizon 2. And that's kind of my talk. I didn't intend to speak for this long because I really want to take some questions. I'd love to have the opportunity to answer any questions you have. Let me just finish by saying a couple of things. First of all, on what is effectively launch day for us, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody back at Playground, some of whom may be watching this, although that was by no means enforced. They have done a phenomenal job on this game. They have worked with passion and commitment and incredible talent, and it would not be the game it is without all of their hard work and their endeavor. So I want to thank them. It is always a privilege for me to be able to represent their work, and I'm always very clear that that's exactly how it works. It is their work, and the credit should go to them. Let me also thank Eurogamer for inviting me to speak today. It's a pleasure to be able to come and speak to real gamers, and thus, even more importantly, I want to thank you guys for coming today and for listening so well. Thank you very much. And I think we do have time for questions, yes? Couple. It seems odd that you had to walk all the way over there.
I know, right? Thanks for the talk, but obviously with previous DLC and things for the Forza series, you've done car packs such as the Top Gear car pack, the Alpine Stars car pack. Is there any plan to do a Mighty Car Mods car pack? Because obviously you're in Australia, and Mighty Car Mods is one of the biggest things to come from down under, and obviously they got some insane cars, and two guys who love driving, love modifying, which is what Horizon's all about.
Yeah.
So,
it's a great idea. I don't think we have any plans at the moment, although back in the studio we are massive fans of Mighty Car Mods, obviously. And they were one of the things that made Australia, not just in terms of its visual beauty, but its like really identifiable and unique car culture, feel like a great fit for the Horizon Festival. We are talking about there's car packs coming. I think it's something that our fans really value. But I'd only say watch this space on your question.
Cheers, thank you.
First of all, thank you for building Forza Horizon 3. I don't think I've ever been so excited to play a Forza game, and I've been playing since the very first one. My question is, you said about the Play Anywhere thing. How much extra work did that create? How much of an extra task was that to get it all in and get it all working?
So that's first of all, thank you so much for your kind words. That's it is hugely appreciated. I get asked that a lot because it seems like when I first saw crossplay specifically happening in the studio, which was actually surprisingly early, it kind of looked like witchcraft because it just worked, and someone had to explain to me that it was a PC and an Xbox One, and they were playing together. The honest answer to your question is actually it wasn't as hard to do as we first anticipated it would be, and that's mainly due to the way Xbox Live is set up. It handles it's the same APIs, which is a smart move, and it handles that traffic in a really sort of user-friendly way. So it was actually a rare example of something that was easier to do than we first thought. Thank you.
I'm a big fan of the series. They feel like an open world outrun, so it's amazingly nails that. I really like the Fast and the Furious Horizon expansion, or game, whatever it was. Could we get a cannonball run Forza Horizon? Some Dom DeLuise, Burt Reynolds racing about, a little bit more story. I know it's a bit older, but...
I think you're betraying your age there a little bit. I get it. I'm not sure everyone else gets the reference. It's a cool idea. Like, I loved what we did with Fast and Furious as well because it was kind of unexpected and like an interesting twist on what we did in Forza Horizon. And more generally, I think I love all the expansions we've done because they have offered people like yourself, people who love the series, the opportunity to play more, but with a twist, with a different experience attached to it. So we're not talking about what we're doing with expansions just yet, but I am excited for the moment we can share that. And I'll take the cannonball run question on advice.
Just more story. It'll be cool.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you. One more. Oh.
Forza Horizon 2 was amazing, and we know it blew it away with how amazing it was. But I do remember there was a ton of championships, like 168. It was amazing. It took me, I think I'm 200 hours into Forza Horizon 2, and I still haven't finished it.
Sorry about that.
Can you give any ideas for how many championships there is for Forza Horizon 3 and how you came to kind of create those?
So I can. Thank you for playing. I got a lot of feedback on Horizon 2's size, right? And it was one of those very odd times for a developer where people say your game is too big. Like, could you not have made it smaller? And I think that's principally because there was an achievement attached to doing all 168. When the first guy got that achievement, we checked his stats, and he'd been playing for over 1,000 hours, which kind of feels like a poor return on investment, even for someone who loves the game. There are fewer championships in this game, and we certainly haven't attached achievements that go that far or demand that kind of obsessive kind of playtime. And the reason I'm kind of cool with that, even for someone like yourself who's going, it's a great thing, I want more, is the fact that, as I said, we've got Event Blueprint, which basically means you can create an infinite variety of championships, and you can share them with your friends, and you can play them in co-op, and you can play them in online free roam as well. So I kind of feel like for someone like you who's just going, give me more, I want as much content as we can get. This game is doing that even above what Horizon 2 delivered. But for the people who used to regularly tweet me to say, why did you attach this achievement to this amount of gameplay, we've made that slightly more manageable, and hopefully they will leave me alone. Thank you for your question. Excellent. Guys, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your time today. I really do appreciate it. Do download the demo if you haven't already, and I'd love to see you guys in Horizons Australia really soon. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again so much. That was a really, really fascinating session. Next up, we have a look at the development of Starbound, which should be hopefully very interesting. But in the meantime, please, just one more round of applause for Ralph Fulton.